Hi, today I'm showing you the 8 worst mistakes junior developers make in FastAPI in a single file. And we are going through them from the smallest problem to the absolute worst. The last mistake looks harmless, but it can lose you data in production without even noticing. But I'm not just showing you what's wrong, I'm also showing you how to fix it. And after this video, you will be writing solid, clean code that actually holds up in production. So stick around. Okay, I'm now in VS Code, and as always you can get the link to the repository in the description of this video. Let's have a look at the bad application. That is in the bad_app.py. So this application is a simple user registration in FastAPI. We've got 4 endpoints where we can create a new user, we can list all of the available users, we can get a single user, and we can also update a user. So nothing really fancy, but it is just for demonstration purposes. So that is an application that I would normally expect a junior to write in, let's say, 1 hour. So what's wrong in this application? Actually, nothing is really wrong. This is an app that works, but it has 8 mistakes that will make your life miserable the moment you hit production. Okay, so let's start it easy. Look at this. We've got def get user, def get users, and also async def create user. So what is the problem here? In FastAPI, this makes a real difference. Sync endpoints get executed by an internal thread pool, meaning that FastAPI offloads the function to a separate thread and doesn't block the main process. And our async endpoint directly runs in a so-called event loop. So the rule is simple. If your application is async, and with FastAPI that is normally the case, then also make the endpoints async. So use async def instead of def. So I'm gonna show you how we can make that better. So here is the well-written application in the app folder with a lot of different modules, and inside the router, where is it? Here's the router.py. There are the endpoints. So we can see that in this case we have an async def for every function and are just consistent all the way out. Okay, let's go back to the bad_app.py for the second issue, and that is the missing type hints. So we've got these 2 endpoints where we get a single user, and this is a so-called path parameter. And currently the issue is that this is untyped. So normally FastAPI recognizes the type of a value, but in this case there is no type. But what the developer does is casting this user ID to an integer. But what happens if we pass, let's say, ABC? Then we get a value error, but that error is unhandled. So this is not a clean error, but a 500 internal server error right into the API user's face. And we can easily fix that if we have a look at the router again. And that's it. FastAPI converts that automatically, and if someone sends ABC, then we get a 422 error with a clear error message that says directly what's wrong. And as a bonus, your OpenAPI document now correctly shows that an integer is expected. Okay, let's go to the next mistake. Again, let's have a look at the bad_app.py. And the next issue that I want to show you is something that you actually can't see, and that is a missing response model. None of these endpoints have a response model. That means FastAPI has no idea what the response type looks like. This is bad for the Swagger documentation because it doesn't show anything useful, and there's actually also a dangerous part. There's no guarantee which fields you're leaking to the outside. Imagine tomorrow you add a password hash to the user dictionary. Without the response model, that password hash goes straight out in the response. So in the router.py, you can see that there is a response model. Let's say in our database model we would have a password hash, but in the response model that is missing, then FastAPI automatically omits this part of the model. Okay, so the next mistake or bad practice is there are a lot of HTTP exceptions. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the problem here is that your business logic is now directly coupled to FastAPI. HTTP status codes in the middle of your data processing. So if you ever need this logic, let's say in a CLI tool, a background worker, or just in a unit test, you've got HTTP exceptions everywhere where they actually don't belong. Okay, so here is how I solve it. Let's have a look at the errors.py. As you can see, I've got custom exception classes. Duplicate username error, which inherits from exception, and also user not found error with a meaningful custom message. These errors know nothing about HTTP or FastAPI. They just say, here is a domain problem. But of course, we still need HTTP responses and HTTP errors. How can we do that? So let's have a look at the main.py. And if you scroll here to line 40, then you can see we can use this app.exception handler decorator to register custom error messages. And if that error is raised, then we can return a JSON response with the status code that we want. So in this case, if we've got a duplicate username error, we want to raise a JSON response with a status code of 409, and the content here is the detail of the exception that we raised. So this mapping exactly lives in one place, and the business logic underneath stays completely framework independent. Okay, so let's go to the next mistake. That is no Pydantic validation. So let's have a look at how this application processes the request. We can see that in every endpoint we got the request decorated or annotated with the request object. And then what we do is we get the request, turn that into a JSON object, and we can now use the get method to extract the username or to extract the email. And that's it. That is the entire validation. That also means what happens if the username is an empty string, that goes through. If the email is like it's not an actually email string or anything, that also goes through. So your code swallows this without blinking. And that is what Pydantic is for. That is a validation library built into FastAPI. You define a model that describes what your data should look like. And FastAPI validates against it automatically. So let's have a look at my model, which is in the models.py. And that is when you want to create a user, then we've got a username and an email. So a username should at least have 3 letters and a maximum of 32. We also use a regex pattern if the name contains any numbers or underscores or any other symbols that normally are not in a name. And for the email, we can even use this email string class, which automatically is provided by Pydantic and validates against a valid email format. But how can we use this class now? Let's have a look at the router. And as you can see, this is pretty simple. You just use this in the function, here user data, which is user create. And if the user data is wrong, so we don't want to pass it here to the register function in the wrong format. So in this case, if this is wrong, the user will get a 422 error with a detailed error message that tells the client directly what field is wrong and what's the problem. Okay, so let's have a look at the next error, and that is business logic in the endpoint. So let's have a look at this. Everything happens at once. We pass the body, we check the fields, we check if the username or email is not provided, then we raise an HTTP exception, which couples business logic with FastAPI. We can also see that a lot of the checks that we do, for example, if the user is not in a database, then we raise this error. That is duplicated code. So if you want to extend your logic, you have to change it in multiple places, and maybe if you forget it once, then you've got a bug that you won't catch until production. So how can we do that better? So we can do that by using a service pattern or repository pattern. So in this case, I created this service.py, which contains this class with 3 methods: user service, which has got register, get, and list all. And we've got a single argument in the constructor, which is a repository. So we use the service directly in the endpoint, and in the service lives the repository, which is the database abstraction. So look at register. So we've got the data that comes from our model. And what we do is we delegate the data to the create method of the repository that we registered here. In the repository lives the database logic. For this, I created an interface, so a class that inherits from ABC. So every user repository has to implement these 3 methods: create, get by ID, and list all. So we can use an in-memory repository, but we can also switch to, let's say, a SQLite database or Postgres database in the future. We just have to implement these 3 methods. So how can we use this pattern in our endpoints? That is quite simple. Just have a look at the router.py. You can see this file is very slim. We just have one endpoint, and here we use a simple dependency injection pattern where we register our service. And then in our endpoint, we just use the function that we want to use, in this case service.register, and we pass our data. So the domain decision, let's say if a user is not found or is duplicated, lives outside of our endpoint. Okay, let's go to the next mistake, and that is writing the complete file or the complete application in a single file. Now imagine you've got two developers working on the same project. One builds a new endpoint and the other fixes the validation. So both have to modify the bad app.py, and this causes merge conflicts every time, just because there's only this single file. You also can't test anything in isolation. So if you want to test the validation, you need to spin up the whole application. If you want to test the duplicate check, same file, the same global state. So how can we do that better? So you already saw it because, yeah, you can see the files, but every file that I created in the app directory has a specific purpose, one responsibility. In the models.py, they are just Pydantic models. In the repository.py is everything that is related to data storage, currently with an in-memory implementation. In the service.py lives the business logic. The router.py contains all of the FastAPI endpoints. Errors.py, just exceptions. Dependencies, FastAPI dependency injection. Main.py, wiring up the application, nothing else. And the beautiful part about this separation of concern is that if you want to test the business logic, then just import the user service, give it a mock repository, so a fake object that behaves like the real repository, and test the logic completely without FastAPI, without HTTP, and without a server. Isolated, fast, and reliable. Okay, so it is time for the very worst mistake in this application. So where is it? That is the global mutable state. We've got an in-memory DB, which is just an empty dictionary, and a next ID, which is a counter, which we use by using this global variable. So by using this, we make it accessible inside a function. So one sentence about global. If you ever see that keyword in your code, you probably, let's say 99.9%, you can be sure that something is very, very wrong. Please don't use that global keyword at all. But why is that? We've got two main reasons for that. First, multiple workers. So in production, UVIcorn, that is the server running a FastAPI application, doesn't just start one process. It starts several ones. So each worker has its own memory. That is a copy of this DB variable. So a user created in worker 1 doesn't exist in worker 2. So a GET request right after POST request after creating a user can cause a 404 error because the request lands in a different worker. The second one is race conditions. Two operations interfering because they are working on the same data at the same time. Two requests come in simultaneously. So both read this next ID, let's say as value 5. Both write data to DB, and then we use in brackets 5 to set the correct index. The second one overrides the first. We don't get an error, we don't get a crash, just silently lost data. And like I already said, global is pretty bad because it also makes your code untestable. So you would have to reset states or reset data between two tests, and that is pretty hard to do. So how can we fix this? We've already built the pieces. So in the repository, we've got an async lock that is used for thread safety. And we also use the service.py for the business logic. But the question is, how do we wire that up in our application? So in this case, we use a specific element of FastAPI, and that is the lifespan. So this is the correct function to set everything up. So what is going on here? We call a function called getSettings and save that in a variable called settings. Then we also pass the settings to a function called createRepository. So here we create a settings object. So these are variables that we use in our application, and we use that to create the correct repository. In this case, if the repo type, in this case it's memory, is of type memory, then we will return an in-memory user repository. So we could easily extend that function tomorrow to, let's say, a SQLite user repository. So just a single line here, 0 changes in the endpoints. So that is the factory pattern. Now let's go back to the main.py. So we create that repository and save that in the application state. So we can save whatever we want in app.state, and then we can create a new variable, in this case repo, and use that in our endpoints or for whatever we want. So the object that we saved here persists for the entire runtime. So every request can access it, but it's not a global variable. It's managed, it's scoped, and has a clear life cycle. So For example, after that yield, you could also shut down resources like close a database connection or flush a cache. And that happens after that yield part. Okay, so in the lifespan, we save the repository in app.state.repo. And we've got one last piece, the dependency injection that wires up in our endpoints. So let's go to dependencies. We can see that we've got this function which accesses a single object, which is the request from FastAPI. And we access request.app.state.repo. So that is the repository that we wired up in our lifespan. So this function getRepo pulls the repository from app.state, and buildService builds the service. That also makes use of a dependency injection. You can see that by the depends class, and we use that dependency in our endpoints in the router.py. So FastAPI automatically resolves the dependency chain. In this case, we call this, and this under the hood calls getRepo. So that is the chain automatically in our application. So in our endpoint, we can just see this single argument service. It doesn't know what's behind it. It doesn't care. It's just clean code with explicit wiring. So that's it. We've got 8 mistakes, but none of them are bugs. The code works, your tests pass. So the demo looks great, but the code doesn't scale. It's not testable. It has race conditions that silently loses data. But now you know what to watch out for and how a clean solution looks like. The full code, the bad version and the clean version is as always in the description. So drop a like if this video helped you and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.